this is it. Just made it out with McLaren 600 LT to a pretty nice scenic park over here in Southern California. But today is a really big day because we're meeting up with a really cool guy. You may have seen his car online quite a lot, or a lot of his publications, that being Carl Brower. How you doing, man? Good to see you, dude.
Good to see you.
This guy, I mean, he has one of the coolest Ford GTs I have ever seen, and actually met up with him a few months back at the racetrack, and I saw him tracking this car. It was back when I had my blue GT500 track pack.
Yeah.
But dude, this thing on the racetrack looked so cool. And this is the carbon package, right? Well, what is it called specifically?
It's the carbon series. So this is a carbon series, and they were kind of a limited version of the Ford GT, which I guess is already somewhat of a limited car.
Yeah.
But if you were fortunate, Ford said you could order a carbon series version of the car, which is what I ordered. And so it's got things that make it unique, even within the Ford GT world.
I applied to get a Ford GT a few years back. Unfortunately, I didn't make the cut, but I have never actually really been in one or been up close with one. So you got to show me what this car is like today, if you don't mind.
Yeah, we'll go through it. We'll go through it.
In the sense of getting one though, so you filled out an application, right? Mm-hmm. And then, so Ford just alerts you later on saying, congratulations, you got accepted. And then
I got an email, I remember it very clearly, you know, it showed up I think in like late July of 2016. And that was an interesting summer because I think everyone applied around April. We found out in July, and in between then was June 2016 when I went to Le Mans. And the first time I'd been to the 24-hour Le Mans in France, when that was the first year that this car was being raced there, and it won its series. So
you were actually there for that race.
I was physically at Le Mans for the first time ever in my life at the same year that this car won its division.
So that's perfect.
And Ford had like a big, cool like suite that they'd set up for Ford GT owners and stuff. Bill Ford came into the suite after the win and was talking to us and all, and he's like, oh, you guys are all part of history. You're here when, you know,
dude.
And it was 50 years to the day. It was 1966 when they took the first 3 positions, and in 2016, same day of the month, like it was a Sunday, June 14th or mid-June, whenever they always have Le Mans. So it was 50 years to the day that they had won their first Le Mans in 1966.
And then now you've got your own. So that is such a cool story you can talk about.
So and when I was at the race, I didn't know if I was getting one, but I was hopeful. But I was there watching them win. And
that may have scored you a few points, just being there, maybe.
I do feel like there were people who were in Le Mans just to make sure all the Ford execs saw the look, I'm in Le Mans.
I made it, please sell me this car.
And I was fortunate because I had a 2005 for 13 years, and I put over 30,000 miles on it, and I featured it in the Edmunds.com long-term fleet for 3 years and all, and I had all sorts of social media. So I think there was this sense from Ford of what I had done with my last Ford GT, and they were fairly confident that if I got another one, I wouldn't just stick it under bubble wrap and hide it away, which far too many of these have had happen to them, but mine has not.
You properly drove it, man, and I think with that in mind, you 100% deserve this car, and seeing you track it is just so amazing. But anyways, getting back to the car itself, so this is the liquid blue, right?
Yeah, this is the liquid blue, which is like the official launch color. It's cool under the shade, you can kind of see the different like ways the paint looks. You know, there's a metallic flake in there, and you can see how it changes from sunlight to shade and all. And I agonized for a year. Once I knew I was getting the car in July of 16, I didn't have to put my order in until August of 17. I had 13 months. You'd think I'd have figured it out. And even as I'm like coming up on my deadline to put my order in, I'm like, well, what am I going to do? But liquid blue was just such a beautiful color.
Oh, I love it. So what all makes the carbon series what it is? I can see the carbon stripes up top. What else?
Yeah, so you get a bunch of pieces that are specific to the carbon series. Now, many of them you can get without carbon series. You can just order the car that way. For instance, if you look down at like the carbon fiber wheels, pretty much any car can get the carbon fiber wheels. You can see the gloss carbon fiber front splitter.
Oh, yeah.
There. And then the lowers, as they're called, like the rocker panels and stuff, you know. Same thing back in the back of the car behind the rear wheel. You've got the rear splitter, right? So all these lower pieces of the car, they could be black, they could be matte carbon, or they could be gloss carbon. And anyone could order them that way. But when you get carbon series, you automatically get all of them in carbon fiber in gloss, and you automatically get the carbon fiber wheels. Then you get things that you can't get on cars that are not carbon series, like this polycarbonate rear hatch. So most of them are glass. This one is a high grade, you know, basically plastic that saves you over 40 pounds.
These vents are new, right, for this package?
Yeah, I believe those are new and all. And then, you know, this cool carbon fiber finish here on the side. So this is unique to carbon series. Only they got that. And then there's interior stuff we can look at in a second, but there were interior features that I really like on the car too, the way the seat pattern's done. But before we go inside, I'll talk about what's then the exterior accent package. So the polycarbonate rear hatch is unique, like we said, and then the other thing that's unique, if you pay for the exterior accent package, you can get the mirrors, as you pointed out, the center stripe, and the brake calipers, all coordinated in the same color. In this case, I chose race red. Liquid blue is the primary color, and then you've got race red for the calipers, mirrors, and center stripe, and then you've got carbon fiber A-pillars. Now, if you didn't get the exterior accent package on your Carbon Series, this is painted black. And that alone made me have to get the exterior accent package. The idea that you've got a Carbon Series 4 GT and your A-pillars are just black like all the others was just too frustrating. I had to do that, right?
I got you. So if you wanted to get like yellow accents, get yellow.
You could get yellow,
that's
you could
cool.
get orange. And
wow.
you know, I can tell you that when I first heard about the car, I heard about the Carbon Series, and I heard about all the features it was going to have, and this was months before I'd seen one. And the guy who was telling me this, who kind of knew everything about the program and all, he was like, yeah, what you're going to get is a contrasting stripe down the center plus the mirrors and the brake caliper. And I was like, that sounds kind of cool. And he's like, here, I've got like a rendering of one, I'll send it to you. So he emailed this to me. Again, this was like way early, before anyone had seen these cars. And I couldn't believe it. It was a silver one with orange accents.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't believe how the accent package, what sounds like this minimal little stripe and then the mirrors and the calipers, totally changed the look of the car.
Yeah.
First time I saw that rendering of a new Ford GT with the accent package, I was like, oh my gosh,
dude,
it totally changes the look of the car.
Oh yeah.
And then of course the center stripes being carbon fiber again. That's on every Carbon Series, no matter what. But the center
the weave is perfectly matched up towards the center. I really do like that. And essentially the whole hood itself, underneath it is already carbon. They're just not doing a paint coat right here, right?
No, and isn't that what's funny? You got to explain to people. They're like, so how do they get this carbon stripe? And I'm like, they don't paint it. Remember, the whole car looks like this. This is just being allowed to be shown through.
Same for the splitter down below. So yeah, in general, I really do like the options that you went with. Do they say how much faster it is with this variant, since you have more lightweight, you know, windows, etc.?
Well, there's a fascinating story behind the Carbon Series, which is that it's based off of the competition series. So the first 2 years of the Ford GT's production, 17 and 18, they had the Ford GT competition series. And what that was pretty much everything you're seeing on this, except it only had a single stripe that was like this wide down the center of the car, and it was exposed carbon. And then it had pretty much all these other characteristics, except it did not have climate control or an audio system.
Oh, so you lucked out because you got that. Right?
Well, so what happened was nobody was ordering the cars. They literally, over like the 2-year period they offered the competition series, my understanding is less than like 10 or 12 of them were ordered, because people were justifiably frightened of being in this tight little compact cabin with not that big a window area right next to the engine and no air conditioning.
Oh my gosh.
So nobody was ordering them. Well, what happened by 19 was you had to have a rear backup camera on every car sold in the US. So right there, they've got to put in the same audio system and screen that all the non-competition cars had, all the other cars. And then they decided to offer air conditioning because nobody was ordering because of that. So once you've got legislated center screen and the air conditioning, because no one wanted to buy it without air conditioning, you've pretty much gained back all the weight saving stuff that you had with the competition. So I still have the 40-pound advantage on that, and then of course the carbon fiber wheels do give you an advantage, but you could get them on other cars, but you know, you don't have to get a Carbon Series to get carbon fiber wheels. So it's got a bit of a weight advantage over your average Ford GT, but not a tremendous one.
Mind if I ask, so if the carbon wheel is around 20 to 30,000 as an option, is the Carbon Series itself, is it similarly priced to what like a Heritage Edition is?
It's actually, the Carbon Series is an extremely good deal, because if you priced out separately what the Carbon Series included, I actually looked this up, if you priced it out separately, it costs like $85,000 to add all those things, to get carbon fiber wheels, to get the gloss carbon fiber lowers, to get center stripes, to get painted calipers, and you could get painted mirror caps. To get those would have added up like $82,000, and the Carbon Series option was $70,000. So you actually kind of made out. But the exterior accent package was 15 more. Now you're at 85, so you're 3,000 more than it would have cost separately. But again, that 3,000 gets you the A-pillars, the contrasting stripe and all that, and of course the Carbon Series. And then there's the interior, which we can take a quick look at.
100%.
As you watch people who are, Ford GT newbies try to get in it, and it's really challenging. It's not working. And this is the deal. Okay, just like everything else in this car, where there's like now, you got to act, you know, you get a window and you got to act during that window. Every time you put your hand on the pressure thing, you release the door latch, but you don't keep it released just by keeping your hand there. You get a window and then it re-engages. So listen. See how it did ch. Now, if I don't open that door between the first ch and the second ch, those are the sounds of the release moving, I don't get to open the door.
Oh, I gotcha. So you can't be slow about it.
When you want it, just like with the rear wing, and when the suspension moves up and down, when it's time to open the door, you got to open the door.
You got to do it. That is really funny.
There's a pad in here that senses your finger. And it releases.
Love the exposed carbon. So this is matte carbon in comparison to the gloss.
Right. So then inside here, you've got this kind of matte finish here, and then you have this great finish here on the door seal. And again, this is normally black. So it was expensive on a regular Ford GT to get the carbon fiber door seals and all that exposed.
Oh, so this is an option. It's not standard.
No, not every one of the cars has this. The base interior, this is black. It's just a painted black panel.
I love the exposed all the way down through here. So is this an option too?
This is all. I think this is all.
This is a tub, right?
Yeah, I think that they're all like this. Contrasting stripes. These are silver. That was the standard thing on all the carbon series. They got contrasting silver stripes on the seats, on the steering wheel, and then you got these silver paddles. And
mind if I feel them?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that feels
nice.
nice.
Most cars had black. They were black. Most of the early Ford GTs, they had this kind of like ribbed pattern on the seats. And I didn't think it was as attractive and all. And when I saw the carbon series and I saw that it was just smooth, and the thinking here is that this is like more grippy. Instead of having these ribs where you would slide more, this is flat and it's a really high quality kind of plush leather interior, and you're not going to move around as much because again, carbon series comes from competition series, which all comes from track orientation.
Well, you know what? One really cool thing about your car though is that your seats are fixed, dude. So you got to show me how that works.
Oh yeah. It's got the crazy fixed seats, so you have to adjust the wheel and the pedals to match your seating position.
Mind if I hop in the driver's seat just see what it feels like?
Yeah. So give it a try.
I gotta see.
So yeah, slide on in
I'll
there.
be extremely gentle because I know how important it is to be gentle in these cars.
Yeah, you know, you just gotta like move your feet and your limbs kind of
very gently, carefully, like it's my own car. Oh wow! So this is different.
Yeah. Whoa. So you can see that you've got some crazy seating positions there.
I think your seating position is pretty. Like matches me pretty well, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But this
probably
feels
about
really
the same
nice.
height and all.
The steering wheel is definitely, it feels very thick when it goes to the other side like this. It's like one of the thicker steering wheels. It goes skinny.
I love. I always like a meeting steering wheel, so I love this.
I know, I love that feeling.
And something else, by the way, Austin, is because this car needs a hydraulic system to do its F1 suspension system that raises and lowers and has all these things it does. Once there was a hydraulic system required for that, they said, well, why not power the rear wing off the hydraulics? And then they were like, well, why not power the steering off hydraulics? Why would we put in a whole EPS system?
So we have similar steering, right?
Yeah, it's hydraulic based, and I just love that because I can tell. I mean, the EPSs have gotten really good. They're certainly way better than they were 10 or 12 years ago. I remember when I first was driving BMWs with EPS, it was like, oops, there goes their steering feel. They've all gotten very good. I'm not going to say that EPS is a terrible thing now. It's still not as good as hydraulic.
Dude, look at that view. I mean, this is incredible. The shift lights, so kind of like the Ferrari 48 Pista we drove recently. You got the shift lights up top, and I think this one different colors, right, for the shift.
Yeah. They go like green and red.
Green and red. But the shift paddles themselves, they kind of remind me of like the TrackPack 500 with the DCT. It's got like that same like. Well, it's not the same texture, but it's like the same color finish on it and the same rivets.
Sure.
But I love how every single button is on the steering wheel and you got the exposed finish because it's like this for a reason, guys.
Yeah.
They want you so that you don't have to move your hands at all when you're driving, especially like on the racetrack, right? And this is a Le Mans race car right here. So it is really, really cool being inside of it. And I just love the way the A-pillars look, how they're going directly over your head towards you, and then how close you sit to the passenger. Like I thought I sat close to the passenger in my car.
That's
this
crazy.
Is a whole new
I always
level.
make jokes. It's like, you know, a professional football player and his girlfriend can sit in this car, but not two professional football players because, you know, she'll be the typical like little like dainty model thing and he'll be giant and all. So he'll take up her space. But if there were two football players, they ain't gonna fit. Now this thing's got a built-in roll bar up here.
Really?
A lot of people don't know it, but it's got an FIA approved roll bar.
You can
in the
hear.
construction. Yeah. So the strength of this cabin, hopefully no one, especially me, ever tests it out. But in theory, I think the kind of crash you could have in this car and still be okay is probably pretty amazing.
So what's really cool about this, so looking down, as you can see, here's your start engine stop button. It's finished in this like nice, like brushed metal, and it's pretty cool being in red. But here's the key right here. So it's funny because the key is actually similar to like a normal car key.
No, like an Explorer key or something.
They should have.
Which they did last time with the 0506s and stuff.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, that key looked just like an Escort or a Taurus key when I back in the mid.
This is nice. And then you have the USB ports down there, and then your Sync 3 right up here.
Yep.
Down here, hazards, also traction off. I'm not sure if you want to try that in a car this caliber, but maybe. This is to change suspension modes, and then here is a front vehicle lift. So for the suspension, this car uses the DSSV shocks, right?
Right, and actually what most of the suspension changes is done through here. It's done
right here.
through this through the driving mode. Track mode versus sport versus regular versus wet versus velocity, VMAX mode as they call it.
So to spin it, you just kind of push up, or do you
you
pull
just
it?
turn it. But that button that you pointed out there, that is for, believe it or not, comfort mode. That C next to the shock. So if you can't do it in sport or track mode, obviously, but if you have it in normal mode, then you can further hit that button, and it's supposed to put it in quote unquote comfort mode and let it have even a light, softer ride. So you're cruising across the country, that's what you put it in.
Wow. And then I love how the center beam again is finished in carbon fiber. The whole car uses a carbon tub, just like my McLaren down there. But what's really different about it is that the whole dashboard itself, guys, if you look at it, it's actually part of the carbon tub chassis. So the whole car itself, it's all based on weight savings, and you can see how the Alcantara is floating right above this whole three-dimensional section. Even coming this way, it's fully opened, right? And then the AC, it's not here, right? So it's going through this tunnel, right, out there.
Yeah.
That is really
You
cool.
can't have center AC registers or vents because this main dash beam is a support beam for the chassis, and the bulk of it is meant for strengthening, not for running air through.
So you can mount harnesses in this car, right? There's little harness mounts.
That was one of the options and all, and of course, if you were smart, you got them. But it was like it was one of the cheapest options. But for $1,500, you get these mounting harnesses on the firewall behind the seats, and even if you never use them, it's like, who would not make sure?
That's awesome. You know what though? So down here, right? You pull this little strap, and that's what moves the pedals towards you, right?
Yeah. So when you pull that, there's a spring load that pushes them toward you. And then you have to use your foot to push them back down into the space that you...
Oh yeah, I can feel it move. So that is really interesting. But you know what, dude? I gotta ask you, Carl. Do you mind if we test out the, the track mode?
Sure.
What button is
Move
that?
it up and down. So yeah, again, that's this one. So right now it's normal, car isn't running, of course. But then sport, all it does is stiffen things up and makes the throttle response quicker and gives you a little more leeway on traction control. And then track is what actually...
So literally going into track mode in the car drops the car.
Drops it 2 inches and raises the rear wing if it's not already up. Now the other setting that'll put it in that same dropped mode, but it doesn't raise the rear wing, is...
VMAX.
When you decide you want to test out its 216-mile-an-hour top speed.
Oh, that'd be fun, man. I gotta get you to go shift sector with me sometime. I know the owner's a really cool guy. This is the shift sector would be sick.
Yeah.
But to do it though, do you have to turn on the car?
Yeah. So for it to all work, you got to have the car running, or it won't do anything.
So the carbon in this car is everywhere, but closing it, you have the dual vents right here. But here we go, guys. First time ever starting up a Ford GT. This is the car I wanted to get so bad, man, and they denied me. But now, look at this Ford. I'm actually turning one on. Anyway, so starting it up. Oh, wow. It feels it doesn't feel too crazy in here. Like it's not vibrating as much as like a 765,
right,
but it still feels raw.
Yeah.
It feels really nice.
Yeah, it's definitely like, it's not at 765 or certainly Senna level, but it's not as, as forgiving as like a 911 Turbo or either.
Yeah.
It's definitely more raw than a typical Grand Touring car.
What display is this? This is normal, right? So it's floating all the way up. Well, what's the highest temperature you have seen on track? Does it do pretty good in the sense of like...
Never. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen it over like...
That's cool.
I don't know if I've ever seen it at 3/4. I don't think so. Even when we were at Willow and driving it really fast.
And you can see how the actual tire pressure gauge shows your Ford GT. Yeah. But then going into track mode, guys, I think we got to do this, right? Mind if you hold the camera outside?
Yeah,
you can
so
get the
rotate
whole
it upward.
Drop.
And you're gonna. So that's wet, and that's VMAX.
So VMAX. Oh my gosh. That is so weird. You just hold the front and the back drops. Oh my gosh. Did you know specifically how high up off the ground we are?
Twist it out of there.
Twist it out? Okay, we're gonna fly back up? What the
No messing around. This
is serious.
You know, things have to happen on a race car. When do they need to happen?
Instantly,
now,
man. You've got a race car.
I told you, the rear wing, it slams up and down. It does not just kind of rise and fall. It slams up and down.
You don't mind if you get a shot outside? Okay, we're all set. Here we go. Strapped up in the race car.
Now pull it back out and it'll pop back up.
Another really cool thing to highlight, guys, is that when you look at the car itself, you see these floating, what are they called? Buttresses, right, for the car?
Yeah, the buttresses are going above the car here, and then you've got these big intakes coming, that the buttresses come into.
So the air transfers through here, and then also vertically, horizontally.
It flows through, and then these are actually functional. They don't just look cool, but they let the air not only just flow through the car and have downforce, but the intake cooling air goes boom into the engine compartment.
And then it exits right here, right?
And then to keep it from being a high pressure situation, you've got an exit hole there to let it back out.
Alrighty, so first time riding in a Ford GT.
The interior is largely PPF'd as well because
I did the same thing on mine.
I'm just OCD enough, Austin.
This is so cool. It is so strange being so close to somebody. What do you call it? In the passenger seat. Hopefully we get no guys in the comment section going, hopefully you guys aren't sick. But luckily, yes. I'm fine. I hope you're fine too.
I've been tested multiple times. I got antibodies all through. I call it a cacophony of sounds.
Okay.
This car has so many different interesting noises, and I'll see how many of them I can make it do while we're driving. But when you push the brake,
oh yeah,
you hear your little.
That's the same sound the 500 made when you released the brake, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, in general, man, it feels very tight in here. And I've realized the roof kind of is low down like a Huracan. Yeah. In the sense of like the McLaren's, the whole windshield is more wide up top. Right. But this gives you it does remind me of the 05, 06 Ford GT. Because being in one of those cars and you having one, yeah, it's similar.
A little bit of a pillbox effect, undeniably.
Like it wants to go fast. You can feel that's how stiff it is already.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we've got it in sport mode now, so it's going to be even a little stiffer. Actually, since we can't really use it, we'll put it in normal, and then we'll go ahead and put it in quote-unquote comfort.
Oh, comfort mode.
Ooh, wow, well now it's like a Cadillac,
This is why you need front-end lift, huh, Carl? Is that standard or is that an option?
It is standard. There's no getting away from front-end lift.
And that's the icon right there, huh?
Yep, and you've got it. And of course, again, one of my favorite things about this car is right now is the front end lift. I don't know how many exotics I've been in where you're turning into a driveway, you realize, oh man, I need to have the front end up. You're hitting it, it's doing its little slowly rising, there's cars coming, on the opposing traffic you're turning across. It's like, come on. This thing, just like everything else, you hit the front end lift button, front end is up.
But in general, man, it is interesting because I feel like we're really close together on the side, but down below it starts kind of, widening out. But the whole car has got that teardrop effect. So in general, it just definitely, I love looking at those mirrors and seeing the floating buttresses like that. The car itself, it's not too stiff, it feels like. It feels like you can definitely enjoy this car on the street for being a Le Mans race car, essentially, right?
I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to drive this across, wide swaths of the country, and in a matter of fact, in about a month and a half, I will be, because I'm going on a Ford GT owners thing. And it's in late October and the first week of November, and I got to drive it into Arizona.
Oh, that's awesome.
I will be driving it there and enjoying every minute of it.
So you think in general, you having an 05 or what year was it for GT, does that help you get a new one?
Undeniably, having a previous one helped you get it. But remember, they sold 4,038 of those, 2,000 about a year, 4,000 total, and they only made 1,200 of these, 1,350 actually will be the total number of these. So a lot of former Ford GT owners who were like, well, I had one before, so I'll get a new one. It's like, nope, there still weren't enough of them to go around for even people who had the old Ford GT.
Did some of the Ford GT owners get kind of upset when they increased production? Because I heard a few things here and there, or is it more like were they always hinting towards that?
Again, you're exactly right. People who didn't have any knowledge of the long-term plan were annoyed when it went from 500 to 1,000 to 1,350. Anyone in the know, and I was one of those people, knew that there was a contract from the start for up to 1,200 of them.
So that makes sense. So when they say they get all mad, there's a backstory behind that.
Yeah. They originally with Multimatic had a plan of up to 1,200.
And that's not a lot, so it's not like...
No, it's still... I mean, look at the prices of F40s. or 918s. Those are all in like the 1500 plus range, if I'm not mistaken.
Here we are, guys, actually on a cool twisty road with the Ford GT. It sounds pretty good with that V6 right there.
Yeah, we're
so
gonna go to track or to sport mode.
Yeah, sport. Comfort setting, not active. Who needs comfort? I love the turbo when you let off the throttle.
Oh, and I tell you, they have this pre-charge system that they do on this car. So when you put it in sport mode, the difference in throttle response, Austin, because now the turbos are pre-charged.
Gotcha.
So it feels much more like an old V8 muscle car, which is one of my favorite cars. I grew up driving muscle cars, and the first time I drove this car in sport mode, I was like, oh yeah.
So anti-lag.
Yeah, it's just, you roll in. I mean, I'm literally just tapping the throttle here.
Wow.
Now I'll get a little more into it.
Wow. That sounds good. All the guys who say this car does not sound good,
I know.
My opinion has now changed. Well, I never really ever heard one in person, but I just hear guys go V6 doesn't sound that good.
Yeah.
But getting in it, man, I like it. It sounds throaty.
This is my mantra on the whole sound of the car thing, which is, if you didn't tell anyone what engine was in this car and you made them drive it and listen to it, they would not have any issues. They would not be like, yeah, but I can tell it's a V6, doesn't sound good, and it doesn't have enough torque. Nobody would say that if they had no clue what the car's engine was.
If you're in this car, and hopefully it's resonating on video, it definitely sounds really good. I love that steering wheel, how it's like the CA Corvette kind of.
Yeah, it's squared off.
Alrighty, here we go. Hopping into the driver's seat of the Ford GT. Now, what year is this again? This was a 2019 Ford GT.
Carbon Series.
Carbon Series. Is that the actual specific name? Sorry.
Official name.
Carbon Series. Yeah, the 765 LT, the doors are so heavy compared to this. You notice that?
Yeah, they are.
This is nicely weighted, very nicely weighted. I'm gonna turn on the AC a little bit. I know it's hot outside.
Yeah,
Get like a nice,
so you can hear it.
nice balance.
You gotta do your door again. You gotta.
Oh, didn't do it hard enough? Is there a soft close or no?
No, you gotta just kind of pull it. Perfect.
Got it. But yeah, dude, the carbon, the way it follows through in the whole entire car.
Yeah, I love it.
It's very nice.
Here and everything.
So even the seats, so I wasn't sure how the seats would feel, but it's really cool because, like, when I was riding with you driving, the side lumbar supports, like, you're staying in one place in the corners.
They're not overly. It's not like you're being like squeezed or compressed.
Exactly. So they'll do this, right? You pull towards you.
Yeah, you pull it towards you until it releases the spring.
There you go. So then if I want to, so how do I push forward again?
And then you just keep it pulled, and then you push it to where you want it.
Ah, I gotcha. It's really cool because I think, isn't the loft Ferrari is like this, right? But steering wheel position feels pretty good. Alrighty, sir, let's do this. Very excited about this. I know it's a very special car, man, so I'm gonna be very gentle and careful with it because, this is a Ford GT for crying out loud. But, dude, always wanted to get in this car, man. This is a dream coming true, so I really appreciate the opportunity.
No, I'm glad. I feel like this car's a really, get this fly on here. This car's got a really good driving dynamics and characteristics, and I want you to, I want to get your impression because I know you're
I appreciate it, man.
Austin, so.
That means a lot. The one last thing to pull the steering wheel a bit forward.
So
just pull down
there's
this.
Two different latches. One is like the lesser, and the one is the greater. I think this is the lesser one, which will let you do a little bit of movement. So try that and see if that gets you where you want. If not, go for the other one. All right.
Oh, so it's dual setup.
Yeah.
These are all a little like. Keep going. I don't want to push it too far. You sure? I feel tension.
I think while it's pushed, I think you do something.
Oh, there we go. That's good. Oh, it can move a lot. Wow.
Yeah.
So to go into drive, so same kind of dial in the 500, but this is, I like the black finish on that front lift active. So is it lifted right now as we speak?
So it's already up.
So what's interesting about it is that in the LT, it's got that feature where when you let off on the brake pedal, it doesn't move. Steering is definitely heavier in this car than my car. Wow. A lot of noises going on here, man, in the driver's seat. So can you put it in manual so I can just feel how the shifters feel, like the instantaneous shifts? Yeah. So M for manual.
M for manual. There you go.
Wow. Even the rear visibility, it's not too bad.
No,
like
really
being in here, bad. I see perfectly behind me. the steering feel, it's definitely very heavy driving at low speeds, but like it's starting to lighten up being hydraulic, and it gives you a lot of feedback in the driver's seat. Very, very special car. And then to go into sport mode, you spin down on this or up?
Rotate it that way.
The opposite way.
Now check the difference in your throttle response.
Oh, you know what? That's 5th gear if I downshift. Oh, so the gear changes in the middle. Wow. Oh, that sounded great, dude. Are you kidding me? This thing is amazing. You can tell, like, even in 3rd gear, instant. There's no lag anymore.
Yeah. Pre-charge, baby.
It reminds me a lot of how linear the engine is in the 488s, like the Pista, because they do a great job with keeping the turbo spooled.
Right. Even though it's turbo, it doesn't feel like it.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Now, is there any programmed effects for like the downshifts or stuff like that? Or like the upshifts? Some cars pop and crackle.
Oh, I think this will do, like some pops and stuff.
Wow, that sounds great. Oh, wow, the brakes feel amazing too, dude. Oh, it just feels like a special car. And I mean, I love how it lights up green. So it goes green and then red up top?
Yeah, I think there's is there like a yellow or something in between? But yeah, there's definitely green and then red. I've had people say that this thing's got the best steering feel of any car.
No, it feels amazing. So yeah, it does have that special, when you change the gear, you can feel it. It's definitely, there's a huge sense of occasion in here. You know, it's one of those things, it reminds me so much of the LT McLarens in the sense of the whole car, the experience, it's just plain raw. Gear changes are instant. So I really felt the turbos kick in right there.
Yeah.
That was peak power band. So it's one of those things where, so this car makes about 650 horsepower, right?
Yep.
Is peak power right at 7,000, or is it getting there a bit early?
I think it's well before 7,000. I think it's somewhere between, like 55 and 65 for sure.
I gotcha. What's interesting about it is that the brake pedal feel, it reminds me, I don't know, I'd say it's got the instant bite of the GT500 track pack where the brake pedal is closer to you and you barely touch it and the thing is just grabbed. Some cars, they don't do that, right?
Yeah, the confidence inspiration that you get from the brakes, as I say, every time I've tracked it, I'm always like, I could have broke later.
I could have broke later. I don't know, you were going pretty fast.
Want to say. You never want to say, oh, I should have broke sooner.
Well, I kind of use that in the thought of like, you know what? I want to go home in one piece.
Yeah.
The steering feel, I mean, the hydraulic steering literally makes the car feel so connected to you.
Yeah.
This is a vehicle.
Nothing's like that. I'm sorry. I know that the steering EPS in a lot of cars has gotten really good. I don't think there's been a car going the opposite way for a while.
I know, you're right, huh? So I'll just kind of go. It feels like a proper driver's car.
Yeah.
100%.
No compromise.
Throttle feels so amazing. Just screams, man, the way it feels. Wow, Okay, so dialing it back a bit, you don't realize what speed you're going, but that's a good thing, man, because as you can see right there, we're going fast, but it doesn't feel like it, and it's so confidence inspiring. It's so flat out. I didn't feel any body roll just now. It honestly feels more confidence inspiring to drive than the 48 Pista to me in the corners, and that was an amazing track focused Ferrari. You can feel just how wide those rear tires are. The suspension is very much dialed in, even in sport mode, and I can't imagine what this would be like, let me go faster, on the track with the suspension lowered and the ABS and the throttle response retuned. It's probably going to feel even better. Plenty of brake by. Yeah, see, it's the throttle. There's no turbo lag. Absolutely, turbo lag is gone. One of those things where this is 100% a driver's car. I can see how it's based on racing heritage, because you can tell how emotion was one of the top priorities when you get in this car, because the way the EcoBoost comes alive, it's definitely, I mean, it's a great package where it doesn't feel like it's a one-trick pony, like a special art project. It comes together and it feels like a proper track car all through the vehicle. And I love the instant brake pedal response like that. I know I can see you fly forward like that.
That's good.
But it's a package that is very impressive, and I think it's actually worth the money. I wasn't sure, because it's an expensive vehicle, you know, but I think it's a great car, and congratulations again on securing it. This feels
between the capabilities, the styling, the limited production, you know, the heritage that goes back 50 years and winning in Le Mans, the whole thing. You know, it's a unique proposition out there, I feel like, and there's a lot of really special, unique propositions out there in the world right now. So it's not like there aren't other really special cars. So it definitely feels like this is in, you know, some pretty rarefied air.
Parking the Ford GT, turning it off. Getting out of the Ford GT, I mean, I have so much to say. Dude, I am blown away. I am in shock. I wish Ford would have sold me one, because I would have loved to have it, and I'd track it nonstop. But anyways, having the chance to drive yours briefly, it does really fill that, you know, like dream right away, and well, I really appreciate it.
I'm glad, Austin. No, I know you're really capable. Your opinion is valuable to me. I appreciate it. I know your experience in all these supercars, and so your perspective on this versus other cars is valuable to me. So I'm glad you drove it. You've talked to me about kind of where it sits in different characteristics with different cars out there, and that's what I was hoping for.
It is. I think it is possibly, like, if I could name the best driver's experiences where it won't bite you, and it's you know, this level of performance, and it's this light, this agile with such amazing steering, I would have to equate this to, like, you know, past the Pista. I'd say alongside with like an LT, 6LT or 765, in the sense of way the car comes together in the corners. It's very much of a momentum car, and the best way I can describe it is that, I think you mentioned this too, imagine the GT350R, how amazing and balanced that car is. Not too much horsepower, not the braking matches everything perfectly.
Yes.
Where you get inside of it and you just feel confident. You don't feel like it's gonna hurt you.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, in like a 720S or 765, I could see how you could get hurt with the way it accelerates so hard and the chassis responds. But this is like, it's that perfect balance.
It all weaves together, and this is what I say, right? There's two limits to any car's capabilities. There's the car's physical, like the physics of what it's capable of, and then there's the driver's confidence level and how far he'll push it into that level of physics. And that's where, like, the 350R is such a magical car to me. Is in a relatively short time at a track experience at Utah Motorsports campus, I had lost all fear and had 100% confidence in the 350R that it would not bite me, and I was driving it very aggressively and having the time of my life. This is that same experience at an elevated level.
And it won't let you hurt yourself.
Yes.
I noticed that, because it's got, you know, Ford is one of the best at tuning a car for, you know, going to the track. And you notice that with the 350R especially.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, not going to kill you.
You know, it's Larry at Multimatic, who runs Multimatic, you know, and it's funny, I love him. He kind of looks like Doc Hollywood, and he's got the kind of that crazy scientist thing too. But he had a great statement when I was at one of the Ford GT events, and a journalist asked him, what was the hardest part about this car? And he said the hardest part was doing what Ford demanded that we do, which was that no matter how capable it was, it would never be a razor's edge that would fall off a cliff and bite you if you went past it. And I heard him say that, and I could not speak up, and there was all these journalists on the strip, and I said, he's right. I stood up and I said, that's the magic of this car. And I said, the 05, 06 that I put 30,000 miles on, that was magical. It had a certain level of threshold, and then it kind of broke loose. And when it broke loose, you could still enjoy it. It wouldn't hurt you. This car's break loose level is far above the 05, 06 GTs, and when it breaks loose, it won't hurt you, and that's awesome. Magical.
Hey Carl, dude, I gotta ask you, man, next time you go to the track, you gotta invite me and give me a hot lap in this thing, because, dude, this on the racetrack, it belongs there. Like everything I hear online, even with Jay Leno saying this is a Le Mans race car for the street, 100% that's correct. I learned that today. It's an overused cliche, race car for the street, but it is the most accurate way to describe the Ford GT. Anyways, guys, make sure to follow Carl Brauer on Instagram. It is literally his full name, that being @CarlBrauer. Yep. He writes for tons of credible magazines that you've heard of, like, for example, Forbes, right? I'm writing for Forbes, I've done Kelly, I've done Auto Trader, I've done Edmunds.com, you know, a little bit of everything. He is a genius when it comes to all these new cars, and I mean, he's experienced in everything, so you'll probably be seeing him in tons new, brand new unveiled cars soon at press events, etc. And if you want to follow along on his Ford GT journey especially, make sure to give him a follow. He's a really cool guy, as you can see here today. Thank you, Austin. Thank you, sir.